Welcome into a brand new edition of Bleav in Heels Hoops, brought to you by the Bleav Podcast Networks and presented by BetOnline.ag. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson from SPAC Road Sports Radio, joined by my co-host, RL Bynum from the Tar Heel Tribune. You can follow us on Twitter/X, Facebook, Instagram, all the good social media channels as we're here each week giving you a recap and preview of your North Carolina Tar Heels basketball squads. The North Carolina Tar Heels 8-0 in conference play, ranked number 3 in the country after a convincing 85-64 win over Wake Forest that was really the tale of two games, RL. I'm sure you were in the Dean Dome while this was going down. Let's just get your initial thoughts on the first half as opposed to the second half for North Carolina taking on a feisty Wake Forest team.
Yeah, this game reminded me a lot of the Pittsburgh game, the first 10 minutes where the offense started out really skittish and struggling. And in other years, Carolina would have fallen into a big hole that they couldn't overcome. But in both of the games, tough defense and rebounding kept them close until the offense could get going. And when then the offense got going and the transition game went going in the second half, it was just a fun game to watch after being down at halftime, which was a little surprising. But, in the Wake Forest game, just like most of the games in the 9-game win streak, the Tar Heels just seemed to get stronger down the stretch.
Yes.
And that's something that you didn't see last season. I mean, my goodness, they didn't give up a three-pointer after halftime. And that's probably the best half that they've played since the first half against Tennessee. It was just very impressive.
I've got some theories about this three-point defense that Carolina's telling right now. Before we get any deeper, though, I do need to read our read from BetOnline. I forgot to do it last time. I said I wasn't going to forget it this time. So a word from our sponsors over at BetOnline. With the NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing, BetOnline has you covered for all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores with additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile. You can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there to get in on the action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. And I noticed
related to that, it sounds like you'll be able to go on apps and legally bet in North Carolina by the ACC tournament.
So there you go. So if you do that, make sure you go to BetOnline, get that 50% welcome bonus. Use the code Bleav, BLEAV, like it's spelled up above, and get in there. I know I've got plenty of friends that are waiting for this to open up. So definitely take advantage of the bonus there. The 3-point shooting. I feel like Hubert is flaunting the fact that the majority of basketball played today is outside in, and he knows it. And he's a 3-point shooter himself. And he probably loves it, but too many teams shoot too many threes, and I think that they're exploiting this. So they know that you're going to shoot 25, 33 attempts or whatever it's going to be during the game. Some even more than that. I think Kentucky's leading the country in like 3-point attempts per game or something crazy. But to me, being old school, it's almost like, okay, that works when it's going in, but when it's not going in, you get into this repetition of just constantly launching threes. And that's what happened to Wake the other night in the second half, where I'm not going to lie, Damari Monsanto started to worry me a little bit early on in the first half. He had a couple back-to-back, and I was like, oh, no. Because once he gets on, he might be the best 3-point shooter in the whole conference. And then it just kind of, when they came out of the locker room for halftime or whatever for the second half, it was Carolina playing really tight on the perimeter, which we've seen all year. It's not a fluke at this point. This is what they are. This is what they do. And it was some of Wake jacking shots. Like some of it, Wake was just throwing threes up. As soon as they saw some open space, they would just throw up a three. And that compiled with Carolina being able to run and go on runs like this team can do. This team will go on like a 20-2 run or whatever. Boom, 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 before you know it. And it's coming from all different spots. Like the one that kind of put the game kind of out of reach, RJ hit like 2 threes back to back, and then a couple of defensive stops. And I think it ended with a Cormac Ryan 3 or something. And before you know it, they're up like 16 points. It's like, what just happened? So I don't know. This is a different team. The way it's built, it's different.
Yeah. And keep in mind, Carolina didn't have a three-pointer until those 2 RJ three-pointers early in the second half. But, there have been suggestions that UNC's streak of terrific perimeter defense was a case of teams just missing shots. One of those making that suggestion was Kevin Keats. But, I think you can dismiss that at this point. I mean, if you take away Louisville, who shot 44% in that game, the other 7 January opponents are only shooting 13.8% from 3-point range. I mean,
insanity. Like, that's crazy.
It's just so different. One of the laments of Carolina fans for years is, why can't they defend the three-pointer? And suddenly they can do it. It's a big adjustment for Carolina fans who are used to not seeing this dynamic.
The something that I didn't realize until Hubert mentioned it in his post game, and I thought back on it. I'm like, dang, I think he's right. RJ got a RJ chant in the Ding Dome. Like, normally you don't get player name chants in the Ding Dome, which sounds crazy with the history and everything else there. But I was thinking back on it, and I was like, who's the last player I could think of where the crowd was just chanting their name? Like, and I couldn't think of one. And Hubert was like,
Luke.
Maybe Luke, and that's like Luke, that kind of thing. But Hubert was like, that's the first time ever. He's like, I've been in this building a long time as a player and as a coach. That's the first time ever I've been in the building where the crowd started chanting a player's name. And when he said it, I was just like, that can't be, with all the players that have come through here. And then I started going through names I would have thought, and I'm like, I think he's right. Like, I can't think of another player where they've done this for, and much deserved. RJ, career high, 36 points. He had 23 in the second half. He took Carolina from trailing by 1 at the break to just basically taking control of the game. And I love the way that they don't rely on threes. Everything I was just saying before, how teams everywhere seem to be relying on the 3-point shot, that Golden State type of offense where everybody's just launching threes or whatever. Problem is, you don't have Steph Curry, so you can't play like that, but everyone thinks they can. So everyone from NC State, who we saw last week doing the same thing, Wake on Monday, I imagine Florida State's going to be doing the same thing Saturday. It's almost like Hubert kind of finally figured out, we don't have to shoot 43s too. We just need to defend the 40 they're going to shoot. And if we're doing what we're doing, we're going to be just fine. We're going to get to 85 points anyway. Can they, when they miss 23 pointers in a game against us and we're running up and down the court? That's the trick. And it definitely helps that this is probably one of the oldest teams in college basketball. Cormac Ryan's 25. So, and he's out there starting. So Armando's on his 5th year. So, I mean, we've been tentative to kind of say how good we think this Carolina team can be. But now at this point, RL, you've seen, 8 ACC games. We've seen them play 19 games total. They've played, I think, 6 or 7 top 25 teams, or 4-2 in those matchups. What your thoughts overall on this Tar Heel team right now, the makeup of it, and just the vibe of this team as I pull up the ACC standings?
Well, I mean, they're confident. Obviously, they got a 2-game lead over Florida State, Duke, and NC State in the ACC, and they're just cruising at this point. There's a long way to go, though, because there's 20 ACC games. So
you reminded me of that before we started. I didn't realize. Yeah,
they can't get, as Roy used to say, fat and happy. They got to keep moving forward. But it's really encouraging that like I said, defense and rebounding. If the effort is there on those, obviously the shooting comes and goes, but they're going to be excellent. I mean, RJ, he was in a zone. He admitted he was in a zone. He was talking to us after the game. He said it's like a backyard hooping for him. And then he goes on Scott Van Pelt's ESPN show Monday night. And then today he made the Athletics midseason All-American team. So he's definitely in the All-American discussion. He's the favorite right now to be ACC Player of the Year. Inexplicably not making first or second team preseason ACC. So
shame on you guys, everyone that did not put this man on this list. Now, granted, nobody knew he was going to do this, but I think it's okay for mea culpa and make sure this man is on the at least first team All ACC. I think he's first team All American. I was trying to think of another guard in the country that's playing like this, this consistently all year, and I can't really name one.
Connective Tennessee's been amazing.
But he's like a forward, though, isn't he? He's not a guard, isn't he? I think
Maybe
so.
more of a wing.
Yeah, he's kind of a wing player. So I don't know. Of course, in today's positionless basketball, that might not matter. But looking at the standings here, of course, Carolina's got a commanding 2-game lead as we stand right now today. And right behind them, you can see who we've got on Saturday, the Seminoles, Florida State, sneakily up to second place in the ACC at 6-2, 12-7 overall. They had a really hard non-conference. They struggled in non-conference play a little bit, and they struggle a little bit away from home too. Actually, they already have 4 home losses, so that makes me feel a little bit better because we're going to Tallahassee Saturday, correct?
Right, and that's not been an easy place for Carolina to win, even with the best teams. And this Seminoles team is a lot different than the one that Carolina saw in December. They're playing a lot better. So it's not going to be an easy day down there.
They've always given us trouble. Leonard Hamilton always has a lot of height on his team. They're probably the tallest team in the ACC again this year. They always seem like they have 3 or 4 7-foot dudes that give us issues. We've already played Florida State. They're the first game we played in ACC play, and we won 78-70. Come from behind win, if I'm not mistaken. And
right.
jar my memory, RL, wasn't that the one they basically came out second half and did press defense all second half and kind of got back in the game?
Right, and that was one of the better halves of the season. But like as I said, they're playing a lot better than they were back then. So and what was it? It was an 8-point win. I don't know if you can assume anything similar is going to happen on Saturday.
I'm at a weird place with this team where it's like, and I was telling a friend, and as we get closer to rivalry week with Duke, we'll probably figure something out, have some Duke podcast hosts come in, do a cross promo or something like that. But I was talking to some friends, and I was like, honestly, this is the first year I can remember since maybe 2017 where I go into games expecting to win them as opposed to hoping to win them. The past couple of years, it's been kind of if Armando doesn't get hurt and the threes are falling and Caleb can get this amount of shots up and RJ can do this and this, if all these things happen, Carolina has a chance to win the game. This year, it's like, I don't even know where it's coming from half the time. Like Armando didn't have a very good game. And he hasn't when he's had to play against someone close to his size, really. If you look back over the whole season, he struggled in some of these other Kentucky and some of these other games too. But they haven't needed him the way they've needed him in previous seasons. Can you talk to the shift in the offense in terms of moving away from being so reliant on Armando Bacot to what they are now, which is like it's like moving parts. Like it doesn't really matter. Everyone knows their role, so the offense flows easier, and it helps when everyone's passing the ball too. So your thoughts on the difference between the last 2 years where it was mainly Armando kick it out or Caleb stop ball, shoot a shot to where they are today?
Yeah, and Armando's numbers weren't that good the other night, but he did a terrific job on Efton Reed, and you got to credit him there. And, he made some nice high screens to help free RJ Davis. So he's doing a lot of other things. He's just not scoring as much recently because, like you said, they don't need it. And you look at the element that Harrison Ingram brings, you just can't minimize. He admitted after the game that the wrist on his shooting hand is still bothering him. So, and I think that's affecting his shooting, but he does so much more. And I didn't realize it till today. If you look at ACC games only, he leads the league in rebounding, which is amazing.
Especially on a team with Armando Bacot on it.
Right.
So, yeah.
He's at 10.6. Armando's fourth in the league in ACC only games. And, they're just so many, like you said, there are 2 or 3 things had to happen last season. Here, it's either or. There are many elements that can go into Carolina winning, and I'm telling you, I know I say this every week, but Elliot Cadeau, I'm telling you, he just keeps on coming on, And if opponents play drop coverage like Wake Forest did the other night, he's going to really flourish because he just was blowing by defenders, driving to the basket, creating chances for others. Like I don't think we've seen from a UNC guard since Kobe White. And then he's also learning how to be effective on the secondary break. And he has talked about he had a video session with Marcus Page earlier in the month, and he showed him a lot of Kobe White tapes and showed him what is the goal on some of those plays. And I think that's helped, and really his progression in recent games has been really good.
I have noticed a change in Cadeau in terms of his aggressiveness towards the hoop. He was really passive and just kind of moving the ball around earlier on in ACC play. But as we've gotten deeper into ACC play, especially Monday, he was driving to the hoop. He was challenging and getting to the cup and scoring that way. And I love the fact that they are moving the ball the way they're moving the ball around. They have some sequences where it's like, they've got the numbers on the break and it's like 3 passes, the ball never even hits the ground, easy dunk type of thing. And I like that they're set up for going forward too, because while Armando's a 5th-year guy, Cormac is a grad student, I don't know if RJ would use his COVID year. You've got a core that's going to be here next year. Harrison Ingram's a junior. I thought he was a senior, so he can come back next year if he wants. Jalen Washington's going to take this leap next year. We've seen a leap from Seth Trimble. He'll be here next year. And then you've got this draft. I mean, this class of freshmen coming in with 2 All-Americans on it. Drake Powell, who plays over at Northwoods here in North Carolina. Tyler Zeller's his assistant coach. Ian Jackson, didn't he the other one that made it? For the team? Right. So they're coming in. Cadeau is part of that class. He reclassified up to come in this year. I assume Cadeau would probably be back for sophomore year because I don't know if he's done enough to get drafted first round this year. But with Davis gone next year, it becomes Cadeau's team completely next year. And that sounds like a fun team coming in next year. Plus, I haven't even got to whatever Hubert does in the portal, like to replace some folks. So, I mean, this thing is rolling, man. This thing is rolling. I like what they're doing. And when I was speaking to my friends before, I was trying to explain the Carolina roster, and we've said it on the show where I'm like, it's a Dean Smith roster, but with a wrinkle. And Hubert kind of reminded me of the wrinkle the other day where he was like, ever since the 2016 season when Roy was playing 2 point guards with Marcus Page and Joel Berry, he fell in love with the 2 point guard idea. So this is a Dean Smith roster, but he's running 2 point guards. And usually there are 2 out there at the same time. If you take Davis out or you take Cadeau out, Tribble comes in. So he's running. It's almost like Roy was running Dean's offense, but with 2 big men running up and down. Hubert's doing the same thing, but instead of 2 big men, he's running 2 point guards and running it that way. But everything else is the depth, the position. Everyone's got someone behind them. There's no. You never really saw it last year, but you could sense there was some kind of just the team wasn't together last year. And it feels like, and maybe you can talk to this just from seeing them up close, it feels like this team is closer. Like it feels like they enjoy playing with each other, and that kind of comes out in the games. Like, can you talk observation-wise when you see them, just in layup lines or warm-ups or whatever? Do you catch a vibe that they're better friends than the teams from the past couple of years?
It does seem there's a lot of team unity. The guys get along well. We've heard stories of when they go out to eat, they pull the tables together because they want to be together. And the team seems to really bonded, which is impressive considering there were only 4 guys back from last season.
That's the part I don't understand.
Yeah,
I can't figure out.
Of course, keep in mind, most of them were on campus by midsummer. I guess Okonkwo wasn't until the end of July because he played in the Euro Championships. But they've had a lot of time to bond, and you can't predict what's going to happen. But they've hit it off, and that really is a big plus if you get along with your teammates and are supporting each other, and that they definitely seem to be doing that. I mean, you can tell post game they'll be joking with each other. And yeah.
I want to get back to this before we do a quick preview of Florida State in terms of below Carolina. There's a glut of teams with 2 losses and 3 losses: Florida State, Duke, NC State, Wake Forest, and then you get to another tier with like Virginia, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, and those guys. Really, it's those first 4: Florida State, and then the rest of the ACC Big Four: Duke, NC State, Wake. Out of those 4, who do you think has the best shot? Well, I don't know if maybe I can catch Carolina at this point with a 2-game lead. But who do you think has the best shot to challenge Carolina going into the second half of the ACC season?
Oh, for sure, I'd say Duke. I mean, the Blue Devils did lose to Pitt, but they were also shorthanded. And, a fully healthy Duke team is going to be tough to beat. And I have no doubt that Carolina can beat Duke, but it's not going to be easy. They're going to have to do everything right to do it. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I saw Duke lose to Arizona earlier this season, so I've seen it up close that they're beatable.
That was in Cameron too, wasn't it?
That was.
So, and then this Pitt loss was in Cameron. Like, I know they were missing Mark Mitchell, and I know they were missing who was it? Was it Roach? Was he out?
Roach, yeah, it was Roach.
Yeah. So, and that's like close to 30 points a game. I get all that, but y'all are at home, man. Y'all are in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and Pitt came in there. This is a team y'all just beat by like 26 or whatever 12 days ago. I don't trust Duke.
It seems like this the games I've seen. Duke is lacking a toughness at times that impressively Carolina has this season, and that'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays a week from Saturday.
It almost feels like Carolina's the older team, like the more experienced veteran team, where Duke, they've got older guys over there too. It's not like it's just a bunch of freshmen. Yeah, I mean, Roach has been here. Was he a junior? He's been here like 3 years or whatever. So they've got experience too. That's going to be a good one. That one's coming. That's next, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, 6:30 a week from Saturday at the Smith Center.
Yeah, and that's always usually in between. It's usually that first February in between conference championship and the Super Bowl. Usually is when they play. If not, it's usually Super Bowl Sunday if they don't skip. So that you got that to look forward to next week. Quick thoughts on Carolina, Florida State here Saturday. Let me get the times and everything for everybody here.
That's a 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock tip, and hold on. Pull this up here for us. So,
and it's on ESPN.
So it is on ESPN. Okay, so it is. Yes, you're correct. 2 o'clock tip off Saturday at Florida State. 2 o'clock tip off. It's on ESPN proper. Carolina's averaging 83 points per game. Florida State's averaging 77. Florida State's only allowing 73 points per game, and they're only allowing 44% field goal percentage for their opponents. So now they're actually averaging almost over 9 steals a game too, and they just beat Syracuse at Syracuse. So they've won 4 of their last 5. Carolina, of course, has won 5 of their last 5, and they're on a 9-game winning streak right now, if I'm not mistaken. Give me your initial thoughts coming into this matchup. Things to watch for Florida State, and what does Carolina need to do to get out of Tallahassee with a win?
I think that the key is being disruptive on defense, as the Tar Heels were against Wake Forest in the second half. They rushed Wake Forest. They made them play faster than they want to. If Carolina can do that against Florida State and start running as it did in the second half of the first game in December, the Carolina should be good, but might be easier to suggest than for them to actually do it. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, if they can play solidly deep defensively, and not like they did in the first half, it sounds like Hubert lit into the team at halftime against Wake Forest, throwing in his faux curse words. And
I saw I think it was Harrison talking about this, that he uses the word fart and so in place of
somebody said, "Can you use that in a sentence?" And he said, "Yeah." he says, "What the fart?"
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that word substitutes for, but and
Yeah.
he said he's never heard him curse.
Uh,
But yeah, even in the first, I was watching Hubert during the first TV timeout of the second half, and boy, he was gyrating and passionate. He was lit. He was like he lit into them big time. And apparently, according to RJ, it was because he didn't think they were playing well on defense in the first 4 minutes. But
see.
but RJ was telling us that that Hubert knows what buttons to push. And I think that Harrison even said, sometimes it's even worse because he doesn't curse because it makes you feel bad when he starts.
Because he wants to, but he can't.
Yeah.
And you're making him feel this way.
But yeah, if they can, so Carolina reached that defensive level after the first TV timeout on Monday night. If they can start at that level and stay at it, they ought to be in good shape. But then again, Tallahassee has been
not been kind
for Carolina over the years. Tallahassee isn't not quite the terrible city that Atlanta has been for Carolina in all sports, but it's been pretty hard.
And we do this live on when we come on. So we're live right now, and if you're seeing us on YouTube or Facebook or the live video on Instagram or on Twitter right now, you can actually respond and interact with us live, ask your questions. Tim Fowler in the house watching, appreciate you watching today, Tim. He's asking, what do you all think about the refs this year? I mean, they kind of vary from half to half, don't they? It feels like some stuff they're calling just isn't there, and then some stuff they're not calling. You can hear it through the TV. And I don't know if that's due to a lack of officials or the officials get together at the beginning of a game, they decide to let some stuff go, or I don't know what it is. But like in that Wake game, it felt like they were kind of letting them play. And then it started bogging down a little bit, and they started, calling foul, like not ticky-tack fouls, but fouls they were letting go the first half. I guess that's my only issue with refs, but that's every year. There's no continuity throughout a whole game. It feels like it's just the whim. Now, it depends on who you get. If you get TV Teddy or something like that, you kind of know going into the game what you're getting, but or Roger Ayers or whoever. But I don't like it when I know the referees' names. Like if I know who they are, I know who they are for a reason. If I know Teddy Valentine's doing the game or whatever, then you kind of got to keep your head on a swivel, I guess.
You're talking about team cohesion. That crew on Monday night was unpredictable. Roger Ayers, you could kind of predict what he was going to call. Rod Groover was the guy who was calling the oddball stuff. It would it be
There's always one.
It would be helpful if all three referees were calling it the same way, but it wasn't. Rod Groover was the one who invariably, when there was a head scratcher, it was his call. And boy, the last two games, Cormac Ryan has to be just mystified. He's had at least 4 fouls in the last two games that were just crazy, creative calls, whatever you want to call them. They were bad calls. I asked him after one of those games, and he wasn't biting. He said, "Oh no, I'm not going to criticize the refs."
And poor Cormac, man, his ankles are going to be nubs by the time the season is over. He's done twisted his ankle, both of them, like multiple times already. It's January. Like I'm surprised he came back in the game because it looked like the Wake player stepped on his foot, and that's what twisted it on Monday night. But he was able to come in and finish the game. So Jared Hardy, I know a friend of mine who's a Carolina fan and does some work for Carolina, says, "What's good, bro? What do y'all think of the impact of Ingram on this team? They're not a number 3 team in the country without him. They're not 8-0 in ACC play without him. Like I was going to say, is he their most valuable player? It's either him or RJ.
Well, it's got to be RJ, but Ingram, certainly Carolina would not be where they were without Ingram.
Maybe most consistent player, because even if he's not getting you double-digit in points, he's going to get you those rebounds. He's going to get you the rebounds. He's going to be able to defend. And he will have a part in the game where he will post a player up and like back them down and make them feel small, give him a little small sign when he's done scoring on them or whatever. And he'll have a little stretch where he'll do 2 or 3 of those and kind of settle the offense. We haven't had that in a while. Somebody outside of Baycott that can just post a player up, back them down, settle the offense, get a bucket. And that's the part I love about this Carolina offense. You would think with Hubert being the coach that he would be teaching outside in too. I want everybody shooting threes, like that kind of thing. No, he's doing old school. Like I've seen so many announcers say it, and I've been saying it from the jump. This reminds me of a Dean Smith team. But now the talking heads in the studios are saying it. Oh, this is old school Carolina. This is old school Carolina when you watch them play. And I'm just like, yes, yes, it is. This is what I grew up on. This is what I watched when I was 7 years old. This is the same type of Carolina team that you knew was going to win 25 games because of the way they played. And I'm excited.
Some of Ingram's moves around the post are better than Mondo's.
Yeah, they really are.
You have to point out though that he's probably being guarded. If there hasn't been a switch, he's being guarded by the 4 instead of the 5. However, he really is able to muscle in and make some nice shots close in, which is impressive and gives Carolina so much versatility.
So we'll stop it there. When we come back next time, it'll be our Duke preview, if I'm not mistaken. It'll probably be our Duke preview. I think they got another game in between that by the time we come back again, beginning of next week. I'll see what we can do to set up something. Maybe talk to the guys over at the Devil's Den podcast and do a with Josh Smith and Dustin Shue. Usually I do something with them on franchise players during rivalry week, but we might just move it over here and do it as a segment.
Yeah, they're playing at Georgia Tech on Tuesday night. And,
so we might be back next Wednesday.
Any Carolina athletics event in Atlanta, you have to brace yourself.
Yeah, you keep mentioning Atlanta and Carolina having some issues down there. And that goes back to like the 80s, like when John Sally.
It goes back to the 1977 Final Four.
Yeah. So, I mean, like they have had some issues in Atlanta. So, I don't know. We'll see how bulletproof this team is because it seems like whatever's been thrown at them, they emerge on the other side double-digit victors. So, we'll see how long this train can go. It's almost feeling like 2009, like the way this team is kind of plowing through teams in the ACC. And I don't want to get that far yet because that team was like, yeah, that team has to win the national championship. Like there's nothing else they can do but that. This team ain't there, but I'm starting to feel like it's going to be a disappointment if they don't get to the Final Four the way they're playing right now.
And this team plays defense a lot better than the 2009 team.
Yeah.
The 2009 team, its mentality was we're just going to outscore you. But
this one's like, no, you're not going to score 7.
Defense until late in the season.
Yeah, they kind of, and those Roy teams were like that, where the Roy teams, it felt like they got better as the year went on. So they might have some issues in December non-conference and lose like to Wofford or somebody. And you're like, oh no, what's going on with this Carolina team? But by the time they got to late February, they kind of rounded into what he wanted them to be. The rotation was set and they were winning games. And his teams usually trended up as the season went on. This Hubert team has been here since like mid-December. And I don't know if this is the ceiling. Because there's still some room to grow, but looking at all the other teams, Duke probably has a little bit more room to grow ceiling wise, but I don't know if they can get there because of just all the injuries and just being in and out. And you're in the middle of January now, like it's not a lot of time to kind of build that, So maybe Wake. I was a little impressed with Wake.
If you're a Carolina fan and you understand that this team can get a lot more consistent offensively. And you see there's that room to grow, that should really excite you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And John Kramer says Tar Heels haven't peaked yet. I don't think they have either. So we still haven't seen a huge monster game from Baycott yet. We just got one from RJ Monday. I just like the makeup of this team. Like it doesn't feel like you have to depend on one particular guy. They just need 2 dudes to go off really, and they play defense, and they're probably going to win the game. And they pull
another element that Elliot Cadeau mentioned himself on Monday night after the Wake Forest game is that he wants to be able to make a jump shot. Once he can make a jump shot, they have to go out there and respect that. The way he can blow by defenders, oh my goodness.
That turns him into Joel Berry, pretty much. Like once he starts doing that, and that's the next evolution for Cadeau is to get that jumper where it's just like. And RJ went through this freshman year, like where it wasn't as consistent to look where he is now, like where everything he throws up feels like water. It's just going so we'll get you ready for that. We'll be back next week. We'll either be back before the Georgia Tech game or after it on Wednesday. And we'll recap the week and we'll preview Duke. And we might split that up and get Devil's Den to come in for the second part of that episode and just kind of talk the rivalry and how it's changed since Hubert and John Shire have taken over, and kind of go from there. Hubert has not beaten John Shire yet. The last one he had against Duke was that Final Four win against Duke and Coach K. So he has not beaten John Shire yet. He's 0-2 against him. So this will be an opportunity for Hubert to get that monkey off his back here. And like John says here, just subscribe. You can subscribe at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Not only do we have Bleav in Hills Hoops, we are the home for Bleav in Carolina Panthers with myself, Sports Illustrated beat writer Skylar Callahan, and all-time leading Panthers rusher Jonathan Stewart. Just saw, before we get out of here, breaking news in the NBA. The Milwaukee Bucks are finalizing an agreement to bring in Doc Rivers as the next head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. So got a little breaking news here too while we're here live. So we'll go ahead and hop out of here. Let you guys enjoy your Wednesday. Again, Saturday, 2 p.m., Tallahassee, Florida State versus number 3, North Carolina. North Carolina trying to go to 9-0 in ACC play, I think for the first time since 92-93, I think, if I read that right. So, and that was Dean Smith's second national championship squad. So we'll keep this thing rolling. So for RL Bynum, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to Bleav in Heels Hoops here on the Bleav Podcast Network, presented by BetOnline.